Hey everyone, it's Mike with It's Pittsfield Tonight. I am in downtown Pittsfield at Park Square, this time with our Commissioner of Department of Public Services, Ricardo Morales. Ricardo, thank you for taking the time to do this today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. So I know I've been wanting to do this with you for quite some time. So I want to discuss probably the most talked about stuff that I hear when it comes to the roads, which is bump outs, roundabouts, and North Street.
Yeah.
So we'll start with bump outs. Because I did some research on these topics also and saw that a lot of the bump outs is things that are happening statewide and actually nationwide, but same with roundabouts. So with the bump outs, the ones I hear about the most are Onoda and Linden, and then South Street and West Housatonic Street. Are those something that you designed, or how did those come to be?
Yeah, so in general, bump outs, as you probably found in your research, have to do with creating safer intersections, or in the case of mid-block bump outs, creating safer segments where you narrow down and you bring the attention back to the driver to pay attention to what they're doing. When you have a narrow turn, you're paying more attention to what you're doing. You're going at slower speeds. And that's exactly what we did, what we do with bump out throughout. South and West Housatonic, that was an issue when I first started here, where the trucks were just hitting the corner of the building. They did it twice, I believe, within 1 year. Back in 2019, we started with barriers. They were knocking down the building corner and the signalization equipment. And we started with barriers, and through some programs with the state, we were able to get some funds to actually build that bump out. Countless times sending information to any GPS companies, Google, stuff like that for streets, GPS navigation. Like, this is not the turn for the truck route.
Now, did this correspond at the same time with redoing Center and West Housatonic Street with the truck route here?
Not the bump out. That was a state project that happened just it ended in 2018, I believe, or thereabouts. And then after that, at that point, it was much better to have the truck route to be from Park Square. If you're going westbound on Route 20, you should follow West Street, Center Street, then West Housatonic, instead of going South Street, then West Housatonic. So that wasn't working. The GPS people, truck drivers, they're just following what they know, not following signage. We did some changes right here on Park Square with better signage, road markings, and it wasn't working. The bump out is as a result of that. And we still see some trucks doing it, but it's a lot less, and they're not resulting in any collisions with our equipment or the building.
I think the biggest on that one, because I've run into it quite a few times, is trucks taking that wide turn, and if there's traffic on West Housatonic Street, everybody starts trying to back up to make room for. Do you think better signage, or is there anything else that can be done to really try to route them this way down West Street?
I think we can work with better signage and markings, but at the end of the day, if the GPS is throwing you one direction and that's not changed, it's going to be very difficult to battle that. And what we see is whatever we build is to make sure that in our core, complicated downtown street network, things happen at a slow pace. Low speed environment. If you make a mistake, it's not going to result in a crash or a collision or someone getting hurt. So that's what we get when even when we have a bump out like that, and there's no other, the driver just went through there with their truck. Even then, there's still a solution that does not involve a collision.
I do know myself from talking to them at South Street Pizza that they said many times that building had been hit, and they said that the whole building shakes like it's going to come down. They said it was pretty scary to be inside when that happens. So that I do know, and that had been happening my whole life, that building getting clipped, and I imagine eventually that would have been a problem, something.
Yeah, we can talk about how to solve problems like that. There's two options. You take the building down, and now you don't have a problem. The building is not getting hit anymore. You can build a wider intersection. The trucks can go through there. You can have that as a solution for all of our intersections. And then at the end of the day, what you're left is with no buildings in our city, right? Like, that's exaggerating, but
Right.
but
I get what you're saying.
You're deconstructing instead of building on what makes our city great, our historical, buildings, our infrastructure. We're in a downtown. We're not building highways through here.
I myself would also be an advocate for bigger signage, something, because the signage over here where it does say truck route, if there's traffic in that lane, you can't see it. But again, I do understand the whole GPS issue, because my neighborhood where I live is on the other side of Interprint. But for some reason, GPS tells them they can go through there, and every time the trucks come through there, they rip down all the wires, they take everything down. We have giant blinking signs and says you're going the wrong way, and 3 days ago a truck came through and ripped down all the wires. So I think it's a matter of everyone's software for their GPS being updated and catching up. One of the other bump outs, as I mentioned earlier, was Linden and Onoda that I hear a lot about.
Yeah.
What's going on with that?
Yeah, with Linden and Onoda, there's a little bit of the building being an issue. That I believe used to be a laundromat, the northeastern corner. Again, we could take it out, and there's no more issue. The problem there was the sight distance, the stop location, the stop bar location was too far back. You could not see any cars. We addressed that by bringing everything closer to the center part of the intersection. It is narrow. We don't see as big of an issue, but the city council has requested that we increase what that intersection dimensions look like. So we're working on taking back some part of that curb.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I remember, I think that was Councilor Moody that...
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, that's in the works.
Okay. And we'll call them speed bumps, but we'll start with Oak Hill and Partridge. I hear a lot about that. I do know somebody who owned a house on Oak Hill, and I was at his house several times when cars were going by at, 60, 70 miles an hour. It was,
I believe it.
Speeds were pretty ridiculous there, and it was a cut through for everyone. Now you get some people that are saying it's excessive, that there's just way too many speed bumps. What is the science or engineering behind that design?
Well, I'm going to start with the result we have there is thanks to the community in that street rallying up and getting the support from the city councilor, getting together, requesting us to do something, the DPW. We presented options. To be quite honest, the speed humps were not the top of our options, but that's what they wanted. And
so this was the residents who requested this. Are they happy now?
the residents there seem to be happy. I think people that are not from that street that have to or want to or like to take that street are the ones that might not be as happy.
Okay. Would you say that's a success and you're happy with the way it is?
I wouldn't want to replicate that in the way we did. We do, we learn. And with something like Oak Hill, being done and the results of it, it is definitely safer. It is, from that point of view, it is good. But now we can point to something when some other neighborhood wants the same thing, and we can say, well, this is not going in general, good with people taking that street. So we have a situation where we have learned, and we can point to those lessons when we go to do some other street.
Okay. Now, raised crosswalks, that's another one I want to talk about. Now, I know recently West Street was done. I personally like the design of West Street. I don't think it's excessive in any way. We all know there was not just a potential for danger there was some fatal accidents, and that needed to be addressed. You have a lot of the population of that area on foot. But Holmes Road, I'm one of those people that think it's excessive. Even if you hit it at 25, which is the posted limit, I think 15 to 20 is more appropriate if you don't want to catch air or bottom out. Well, how do you feel about that design? And I know why it was put in. There was a child hit. Are you happy with that?
It's a tough location for a speed hump. I'm happy still with it. We can do better with signage and markings, and in fact, we're doing that right now. We met with Councilor Amuso and Rin to work out what can be done to improve visibility and awareness of that speed hump. If you take it knowing that it's there, it's not going to be an issue. The problem is when you forget it's there and the infrastructure to alert you is not the best. So we're currently working on that. We just installed some signage with some symbols that visually tell you what to look for instead of just words. So we did that last week, and we're going to be we're going to refresh the markings this week, but in the coming months, because we can't wait for that. In the coming months, we're going to be installing preformed markings, which are meant to last a lot longer. They're a little bit more expensive, but it's something that will last and won't fade as quick.
Do you think the raised crosswalk is a better option than, say, a crosswalk with a speed bump up in front on each side of it before you get to the crosswalk, rather than the crosswalk itself being the...
There's studies around that subject, and you can cut it in two ways there. As it is right now, I think it is raising awareness, and that's the number one objective, is to raise that awareness to alert you have to be slow here. Having more before and then after, or for both directions, it's probably better. But then you have two, and that's more expensive. This project did include another one, but we had to cut it off because of the bid where it came in, and we did not have that kind of money. So we resolved to just have that one raised crosswalk.
Okay. But is that something you're going to continue to study or look at and see how that goes?
Yeah. We're always learning from what we do. Sometimes we don't put the right thing off the bat, and we'll learn from that. Sometimes we put the right thing, and we learn the successes from that too.
Okay. Now the other topic is roundabouts. Now, I did some research on this also, and roundabouts is not, as some people think, an exclusive thing that is just you like roundabouts and you decided Pittsfield should have them. It is something that's happening nationwide. Since we started addressing some of these issues with the roundabout on Tyler and Woodlawn, the state of Florida has put in 1,500 of them. State of California, 800. You can go down the list. Massachusetts isn't even close to the top of that list. And one of the big reasons is the old style rotaries are dangerous. They don't work. The smaller roundabouts are safer. You're not utilizing traffic lights. There's a lot of positives just on the maintenance and cost of traffic lights and maintaining them, and what happens when the power goes out or something happens. So there's all this study that shows they're safer and better. talk to us about the roundabouts, because I just want to address some of those rumors of why we have them, and I'm sure this wasn't just your idea. And then and the possible new projects coming up. I know we're discussing possibly East and Fenn.
Yeah, roundabouts. The biggest success with roundabouts comes with the modern roundabout, and usually you're talking about single lane, small roundabout. And when you have that, you reduce the conflict points in more than half, as opposed to a signalized intersection. And those remaining conflict points are usually the type of, it's side swipes, two vehicles colliding in a side manner, which are less critical or fatal. It could be, non-fatal. It could be the difference between fatal and non-fatal versus like a T collision or a...
Which we used to see here at Park Square all the time before this was done.
Right. So Park Square here was a rotary. There's many like that in New England and Massachusetts. And rotaries usually have more than one lane, and they're high-speed, big types of circles. And that's not what we're going for. Studies show, and with backup, in real life, that modern roundabouts are much safer. They do require a lot more space than your intersections may require with signals. So sometimes it's not feasible. We looked at a roundabout for west, where it turns to west on the West Street project.
Oh, west and west?
West and west, yeah. We looked at a roundabout there, and it was going to be very difficult to fit one there. And so we decided not to. So a signal there makes more sense. We looked at a roundabout, speaking of East Street, we looked at a roundabout for East, Elm, and 4th. And guess what? I decided not to put a roundabout there or to submit for approval for a roundabout there since it would have required such a big footprint and multiple lanes. By that point, you lose the safety factor that a modern small roundabout brings. So there's a time and place for roundabouts. We have now the Woodlawn and Tyler roundabout, Woodlawn, Tyler, Dalton roundabout. We have the BMC area roundabout. That one, we're still tweaking the signals on Charles and Springside Ave.
There's something I mentioned to you before about that one that confuses me, is you have a double yield.
Oh, on the other side, yes.
Right, and I every time I'm like, well, who has the right of way here? Is it just truly who feels they were there first, or is that something you're looking at maybe changing, or?
Well, we could. It's not been a big issue in terms of safety.
Would you be surprised at how many people don't know what yield means?
I would be. I want to say I would be surprised, but I should probably say I wouldn't be surprised. When you have yielding, there is a thing called a yielding intersection where you just, usually they're in Europe and there's no signage or signals or anything, and you just go in and you don't know what's going on. It's super safe. Everyone slows down because they don't know what's going on, and everyone goes by and they look at each other. You first, me first. We're not going to do that here. We have signage and we have to meet certain standards. But when you have that condition, it creates that sense of, okay, I have to yield, you have to yield, and now you have a negotiation between two drivers, and it becomes a lot, because you're bringing that, when you're driving, your brain is on fast mode, fast thinking. You're on auto brain, right? When you encounter a situation like that, you all of a sudden slow down. You have to think hard. It's like the difference between adding 2 + 2 and adding 354 plus 1,530. Whatever. You have to think hard to do that. It's easy, but you have to think.
Right.
Same thing happens when you see those types of infrastructure. You have to slow down and think about what you're doing. So,
but would you say that roundabout is successful so far?
The roundabout itself has been successful.
Because some people were saying, oh, it's backing traffic up. But I went up at different times filming and tried to see if I could film with it backing traffic up. And I haven't been lucky enough to catch it. And I went at 334, 435.
It could back up. And we have to be honest about what is the measure of success. We're not building a roundabout, so there's no backups. We're building a roundabout so that it's safer. And there could be backups. A roundabout is a way of arranging two lanes, right? One in opposite direction to the other. And if there wasn't a roundabout there, you still have an intersection, you still have backups if you have that signal over there, Charles and Springside. With the roundabout, you could still have backups. You're in the roundabout. It's not a magical, like, there's no traffic now.
I feel like the backups were something that was going on with the timing of the lights on Tyler and First right there. And that was causing, people turning to head towards the roundabout. And I think that's where I've seen it backed up. I haven't seen a backup directly due to the roundabout.
Yeah. So with the project being the state construction, they will be giving that to the city, and then we can start tweaking timing and assessing, improving the timing in that way. Once we're at that stage, we can do that.
Okay. And last but definitely not least, let's talk about North Street. So bike lanes is something I've talked about, bike lanes forever. I'm one of those people that I just see North Street as a destination spot. I don't know if it's feasible to have bike lanes on First or bike lanes on Center and Seymour. I feel like if people are going to ride bikes to North Street, there should be racks for them. And when you get there, you walk your bike down the sidewalk. Or if you're traveling, you just travel with the traffic. But I do think that things have considerably slowed down in a safer way with reducing it to one lane. That is noticeable. So we've seen a couple different changes. What are we looking at with North Street coming in the future?
Yeah, the road to where we are now has been long. We have the current setup is meant to be a proof of concept in reducing to one lane. It proved what we were hoping, that the traffic was not impacted in terms of volume, but the speeds came down and the accidents, collisions, they came down as well.
So was it more about that than it actually was bicycle traffic?
Absolutely. The project is primarily a project to improve safety in our main street, right, on North Street. What we do with the space is the next question. One of the reasons we got the money we received from the state was because we included bike lanes. And we narrowed down. We did a road diet. We eliminated a lane in each direction. That's all part of what makes a good submittal in a grant to the state.
Now, what I think a lot of people don't agree or understand, I should say, speaking of that, is that a lot of these monies are earmarked specifically for bike lanes or roundabouts or things like that. And you can't just say, well, we're going to take that money and use it for Wacona Park or fixing somebody else's street. You either use it for what it's intended for or you don't get it.
That's true. And I wouldn't use the word earmarked because it's less of a legislation. And that's where that term is usually used in the legislative side. And it's more of a programmatic work from the Department of Transportation, the administrative side. So the budget is set and they have this much money and it's for a certain program, and that's what we're going for.
But you have to agree to those terms, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, we have to submit, and it's competitive. We have to submit for to get money to improve the street. We need to include certain things, and there's within all of the review, there's a complete streets chapter to be reviewed. Folks that are in the state that are just looking at how is this achieving the Complete Streets goals. And that includes, what are we doing to accommodate transportation on other modes, not just drivers. People walking on wheelchairs, on stroller, on a bike, on a scooter, on both kinds of scooters. It is part of the review process, and it has to be discussed, reviewed, submitted, and if we don't get the money, then it's given to someone else, and we're less fortunate. We're less, left with that.
But when people say, "Oh, what a waste of tax dollars," it's not something that could be used for anything else.
Correct. You cannot use it for things. I wish I could use it for parks maintenance, because that's part of what we do too in public works. But we can't unless we include maybe in that park maintenance a bike trail in the park.
You'd have to get real creative then.
Right. Usually it's programs that are made for that purpose, and that's what we submit for.
So what can we be expecting going forward with North Street?
Yeah, so we have gone through, last year we did the conceptual study. We had multiple options. We had a very, I would say, successful public input session. We had about 80 people show up and leave comments. From there, we saw a clear trend. We took that, we met with the police, fire. We have worked out some comments, some concerns, and from there, we're I'm not going to use that word yet. We are developing the main conceptual blueprint of what we're going to be presenting. And that's coming later in the summer with another public session on that concept, a singular concept. And then we'll take more comments there. And after that, when that is set, when the comments are built in, the ones that we can, the ones that make sense, the ones that we can compromise on, then we will start the design.
Okay. So it will be a chance for people to come forward, give their opinion, and I also have to add, because I hear this and it makes me laugh. So a lot of people think we have bike lanes because you like to ride a bicycle. How true is that?
Listen, I do like to ride my bicycle, but I'm just a dude riding to work. I'm not a cyclist. I like when I can to get to work on my bicycle. And I see a lot of people doing that. We have measurements, stats. We review on a constant basis on our downtown, on North Street, how many bicycles are crossing the intersection. And the numbers would surprise you. You have on a given day, on a nice day, it does fluctuate with weather. We have between 200 and 300 bicyclists in an intersection in a day.
I believe that, and I would love to know how many of those, if there was ever a way to find out, are e-bikes, because I talked to the chief about this. Bicycle sales in the States are at an all-time high, and that is being pushed by e-bike sales. They've become a solid, dependable form of transportation for people, and I think that's a big part of it. The reason I brought that up to him was about enforcing being on the sidewalks, because I think a lot of the flack that the bike lanes get is because they see so many people riding on the sidewalks, it is dangerous with the speeds of some of these bikes. Is that something you personally would like to see somehow being able to enforce that or make those changes?
Yeah, I think when we had the laws around riding your bicycle in the sidewalk have not changed. They've remained the same before and after the current condition on North Street. The one thing that changed is we made space for people to ride on the road instead of just share the road, And I see that as something in the right direction, because on one end, you're telling people you cannot ride your sidewalk or skateboard or scooter. That's actually the ordinance, not just bikes, on the sidewalk on North Street. But then you don't give them any other option, whoever's riding it. And with, the installation we have now, it gives you an alternative to the sidewalk that is a lot safer than sharing the road. And when I say that, I'm talking about riders of all ages. That's what we strive for. It's, the 8-year-olds and the 80-year-olds. We want to make sure that they can also feel safe riding on the road. I'm not saying that it is perfect. It isn't. It is far from being
Now,
perfect.
to the people who say, well, that hasn't been officially changed with DOT, and technically you can drive a motor vehicle in what is painted and designated as a bike lane. Is that true?
I think it is a gray area, and having a bike lane designated by markings gives the state and local enforcement grounds to enforce that being a bike lane. But at the same time, we're telling people you have to cross this to be able to park. So where's the line there too? So you're going to have people driving on the bike lane no matter what. That's why in the solutions we're looking for, we move from a proof of concept to something that is permanent where that would not be an issue.
Because I often see double rights, meaning you got somebody in the bike lane taking a right-hand turn, and then you have someone in the travel lane as it's marked also going to take a right-hand turn, and it does get confusing from that aspect. So, but I guess the bottom line is there will be public meetings coming up. People will be able to put in their input, and I imagine being able to look at multiple options that you're considering.
So there will still be options, but the multiple concepts was last year. And again, we saw about 80 people show up. For what it is, I think it was a success, because normally for a meeting like that, we see 5 people, which is unfortunate. I hate seeing that. I want people to be engaged in what we do. So I hope that we get, double the amount of people in this next public session.
You have to let me know, and I'll gladly promote it or do something with you to promote it, because that's the biggest part of even me doing this, is to get people involved and engaged. Your voice does matter, just like your vote does matter. All of that matters, but you have to take the steps to be part of the solution or part of the change, or else you really can't complain when you just sit there and go, what's this?
Right.
You could have had a say in it. So I am looking forward to that. So will it be just one design that we're looking at with tweaks then? Is that what it'll be?
We'll settle on, we'll be presenting a final concept with what happens by block, being able to be changed depending on the uses for that block. Overall, there still could be changes. This is a concept. We're not going to be designing something and spending the money on design unless we have a good buy-in from the public on this, especially those that show up.
Okay. Well, just let me know, and I definitely will use this channel to help promote that also.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. I greatly appreciate it. We'll have to do this again soon. I know this is our first time, so there was a lot to talk about.
Absolutely.
This might even be a 2-part series, just because people get burnt out after like 3 minutes.
We can talk another time about utilities.
Yes, absolutely. Yes,
Yeah.
there's a whole ton of different stuff to talk about, water and sewer and everything. So, well, thank you again, Ricardo. I definitely appreciate it, and I'll talk to you soon.